kind of came to the same conclusion we did, that kind of color and the flavor go together. And that color definitely sells. So the color gets them to carry them out the door, and the flavor gets them to come back in the door for another round.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. That redness, you go into these grocery stores and that, man, they look like they're pears in there. They don't have any color whatsoever. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, and as he said, he raised a good peach before. He was proud of those peaches in that load he had before.
That's
but
right.
He said we're in a whole different ball game now.
Yeah, my name is Jim Halbeisen, and this is my opinion.
My name is Jim Halbeisen, and we're here doing the Growers Mineral podcast. And we're in early March, and this time of year we get a lot of discussion about frost protection in different types of crops, particularly vegetables and fruit tree crops. So this is a subject that has a lot of interest, discussing it with peach growers here in the Midwest. There's been a lot of crops that have been lost to these later frosts. And we've had, over the years, some very nice success with helping crops deal with this type of issue by foliar feeding the Growers Mineral Solutions. We have a gentleman in Southwestern Indiana that is working with a peach grower down there that has had some very nice success using the grower's product for frost protection, and also has seen a very significant increase in the quality of his crop. So in our organization, the guys that work with particular crops, they automatically become our experts, but it's really our customers that are the experts. So I decided with the time of year that we have here in March, if we get that early April frost or late March frost, which there is some discussion about on the internet, Iowa State University has discussed this a little bit. We thought it would be very helpful to discuss what we've seen at our customers' operations and how they approach it. That will give you some ideas on how to approach this type of thing, which can be very damaging to particular operations. So our expert is a cow-calf operator, Southwest Indiana, Marty Whitsitt, and Marty's working with a very good customer that has a very good peach operation. And so I thought it would be very helpful if Marty could join me on the podcast, and we could talk a little bit about what his customer is doing. And I just wanted to get Marty's input on this because he's worked rather closely with the customer, and they've had some very nice success. So, Marty, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, tell guys where you're at, and then you can go ahead and go from there about how we'll discuss frost protection using Growers Mineral Solutions.
All right. Thank you, Jim. I'm in Southwest Indiana, as he said, Jasper, Huntingburg area in DuBois County. I'm background is grass and hay and cattle, but working with the growers program got me introduced to Jim Seiler of Lakeview Orchard. He was just looking for something to improve the health of his trees when he got started with growers. He really liked the idea that it was had the FDA inspection followed behind it, so a little different than any other fertilizer out there. The first picture I've got there, Russ, is of the recommendations of our product for using growers on fruit trees. And it's spelled out how they want a gallon at bud swell. Their second step is for green tissue, but on peaches, you're going to see the pink tip before you see any green tissue. So if you skip that second application, specifically on peach trees, if you follow another couple gallon at petal fall or at strong blossom, you're getting up to about 5 gallons to the acre by the time you're at full blossom. Now, when he got started, he wasn't quite getting the full recommendation that first year, but he was, as a lot of guys, tentative, trying to feel it out and find out what it would do. But with what he had on, he was able to make it through a 24-degree session at full blossom. He was pretty downtrodden after he saw those temperatures. He thought he was pretty well toast. But a couple days later, he started telling me that he saw some improvements out there. Now, he had in the past always used some nitrogen. He would throw a handful, 2 or 3 pounds of urea around each tree. I did convince him to stop doing that. Our numbers have shown, or experience has shown, that in the produce world, if you're wanting quality and flavor, nitrogen and potash are your enemies. You need to get them out of there. So I got him to get off of the nitrogen, and all he had run was the growers. He was around 3 to 4 gallons to the acre when that 24-degree temperature hit, and that was on April 7th of 2020. And he expected a complete wipeout. That second photograph there shows he had sent me a couple of different photographs of how many peaches he was knocking off of the tree. I didn't realize that they knocked that many off, but considering the fact that there shouldn't have been any out there and he's got this many laying on the ground, it didn't mean much to him and may not mean much to a regular peach grower, but that was impressive to me that you got to knock that many off to get the fruit number down. I know he says he likes like 350, 400 fruit per tree. He likes to keep a lot of leaf surface. Very important for our contentions is collecting sunlight. So a lot of guys trim trees a little different than he does, and they restrict that leaf surface, but he likes to keep a lot more leaf surface with those trees. That third picture was just later on in that same growing season. This was in July of 2020. He was just out in the orchard that day after a little thunderstorm, and considering the fact that there shouldn't have been anything out there, you can see fruit hanging on that tree. And of course, he aligned it just right to have that rainbow coming down to the pot of gold, as he called it, at the end of that. The next picture I've got is just followed along. It's the end of July of 2020, July 29th. He was harvesting peaches again that he said should not be out there. So he's given me a lot of pictures of what they look like as they're on the tree and then what they're looking like as they're coming off of the tree. You get all of that combined together, and he said when the customers come by and not only see them on the tree, but when they see that kind of color, it doesn't take long for them to pick them up and take them on out the door. The peaches that came off of that load that we just saw there in that fourth picture, the fifth picture is a picture of one of those peaches that we cut open. And looking at the inside of that peach, the depth of that color and the way it goes almost all the way to the seed, he was really impressed with that and said that he hadn't seen that coming through before. And he said all along, the color, the flavor, and the shelf life, they all went along. Another one that he mentioned was hang time. He has a lot of trouble. As the peach starts getting ripe, you got to get everything picked, because if you get out there in the field or in the orchard, you pick one peach off the branch and two others fall on the ground, and then they're lost forever. So he said that hang time, they were really hanging a lot better for him that year. And another thing in the organization is that calcium is a really big deal. We're not discussing pH about it. We're just a matter of getting the calcium in the soil up to the levels that it ought to be for the soil porosity and getting water to move and the air penetration and for the biological life. And I will say that he did not have addressed his calcium issue this first season. So the program will be quite helpful even without the calcium, but he has been working on that since.
Yeah, hey, one thing that I wanted to comment a little bit on, Marty, on Marty wrote a very nice article for our solution publication that goes out to our clientele base. And the title of that particular article is "There Shouldn't Have Been a Peach on the Place." And this load here, you see, the red color in it is pretty interesting. You know, I've been around certain orchards with prospective customers, and geez, the color is just not anything like we see here. And that's one thing that Jim started to recognize, Marty, when he was, implementing it. He started out kind of looking at quality, but the frost protection got his attention, and then all of a sudden the quality started really getting his attention. Would you say that's the way it progressed?
Yeah, he definitely saw the freeze protection first thing out of the bat. Of course, he hadn't seen any fruit yet when the freeze came through. So,
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, the color definitely got his attention.
Mm-hmm. And then the picture of the fruit where it shows the red approaching the seed or the pit. That's very interesting that he was able to bring that up. That's something that he hasn't seen for quite a while, because he started in the business, with his grandfather running around too, right?
That's what I understand. Yeah, and he's been doing it himself since for 62 years, I think he said, or somewhere around that range. But yeah, he mentioned that color penetration through that fruit was really surprising. And he kind of came to the same conclusion we did, that kind of color and the flavor go together.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And that color definitely sells. Said the color gets them to carry them out the door, and the flavor gets them to come back in the door for another round.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. That quality is a big issue. Big issue. So, okay, we're going to move on from the cut peach to the next picture, Marty. Yeah, okay, now we're talking frost activity.
That's right. This was April the 1st of 23, the following season. Mm-hmm. You can see off to the side of that picture, that one's not real clear to be able to see the temperature, but you can get a good idea that it's well below 30 on that screen. If the next picture, the 7th picture I got there, that's kind of daybreak of the next morning, and they're still showing about 22 degrees on there. When I was zoomed in on that previous picture, looking real close, it showed 21. So if it's still that way at daylight, he's been well below freezing for a lot of hours. Again, It should have been pretty much toast.
Right. Because that length of frost, that's what we tell most guys. It's not just that you influx into that temperature, but how long you stay at that low temperature is really the key. And man, if you can overcome that can be very helpful.
And he goes by the theory that those peaches have feelings. And he says if that gets cold and the wind's blowing, it affects them just like it does you and me. And that wind has a great detrimental effect to that also, which makes sense. It's compounds the duration thing. If you got wind blowing, it just dissipates heat so fast.
Yeah. Well, it penetrates, that's a big issue, man.
Yeah. So then the next picture is it's later that month, the 26th of April. So 24 days after that freezing temperature, he's pretty proud that he's got peaches hanging on the tree with that kind of temperatures again.
Yeah, because that, you get that blossom destruction, you're just not going to have anything there. So
another thing that I had never heard of that he pointed out to me that you can get, he calls them drones. You can get something that will start to form a peach, even if that blossom's been frozen, but it won't get much over about the size of a walnut or something like that, and then it drops off the tree.
Interesting. I've never seen anything like that. That's pretty interesting.
I raise calves. They hit the ground alive or else they're dead. I never anything like this.
That's right. That's right.
The next picture was the 9th of June in 23. And that's what he had commented again with that picture, that it's kind of a running joke now. He'll snap me pictures, and he'll always put some kind of caption on the pictures now saying, I wish I could get some color out of this grower.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. That redness, you go into these grocery stores and that, man, they look like they're pears in there. They don't have any color whatsoever. This is unbelievable.
Now, the next picture, he sent a comment along with that said, if you get 4 gallons of growers on before the freeze, you can pick peaches that look like this.
Yeah, excellent. Again, you get that color situation. That's and look how uniform that is, man, all the way across there.
Right. And he's commenting that he's seeing a whole lot healthier tree. I mean, it's hard for him to put into words what he meant by that. I've quizzed him several times of what he meant by that he
Yeah.
was looking for better health in his tree. And he's like, well, you can just see it. I'm like, well, that's like me looking at a healthy calf or one that don't look healthy. I can see that quicker than somebody that's
Yeah.
only ever raised peanuts all their life. It's just when
Yeah.
you're around it all the time, you just know what a healthy one looks like. I put it kind of like your kids. I mean, you can tell when your kid is not feeling well. You can see it in their face. So I
That's
guess
right.
he can see it in the face of those peach trees.
See, one thing that is kind of striking me while we discuss this is, using growers as a starter on a crop, like in the field on corn or soybeans or whatever. It goes back to the health of that individual early in the season. You get those early sprays on looking for that frost protection, but the vigor you're putting into that tree is quite obvious when you see this kind of color too. So it's the old saying, a run hog is always a run hog. Once it's been injured, no matter what you do to it, you're never going to make it into anything that's going to be productive. See, it's the same way with this peach tree, I think. Look at that color. It's just fantastic.
For an added comparison, that next picture I've got, the 11th picture, he
Bingo.
found this in his phone, and it got his attention because he was picking in the same place in his orchard when he found this photograph. So we're in the same variety.
Right.
And then go on to the next picture, the 12th picture. It's the same variety in the same location in the orchard. And you've got a big color swing from
Unbelievable.
before he was in growers until with the growers program.
Mm-hmm.
And this was 23 that he took this photograph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that that's pretty interesting that came up to him. That's kind of a confirmation of what's actually going on.
Well, yeah, and as he said, he raised a good peach before. He was proud of those peaches in that load he had before.
That's
But
right.
he said we're in a whole different ball game now.
Mm-hmm. See, that's one thing, Marty, with guys that I always say to them, hey, if you're a farmer and you're still in business, you're a good farmer, because society is dictating that food is not that important and they're trying to run you out of business. We're not going to make you a better farmer. We're going to make you better at your trade and what you're doing right now. And see, when guys recognize that, that's a big plus for them.
Well, it changes your thinking on a lot of things too. When it starts, when things are obviously different for you, you've got to start thinking different.
Right.
But one of the big ones that he noted was the real early peaches. The first ones to get ripe are a cling peach, and he called them a junk peach. He said the quality's not there. They're not that great of flavor. Then they're cling. You can't get them off of the seed. But as an orchard, you don't want to be without them, because if people start going to somebody else's orchard, they may just keep going there the whole season. So he raised them too. Now, he said before growers, when he would pick them, this is why he's saying the quality was so bad, was that if he didn't get them sold out the front door in 24 hours, he was usually tossing them out the back door because they were starting to get bad already. But with the growers now, he's telling me that he's marketing about 90 to 95% of those junk peaches, where he used to throw 80, 85% of them away.
Yeah.
So he's definitely improved the income there, and he's even noted a couple times to me that they seem to come off of the seed a little bit easier, and they're not as tight of a cling as they used to be before he got on growers.
Yeah, see, this is, they're starting to see this investigation into this rhizophagy that we'll talk about eventually, and getting the nutrients into the plant through the biological life in the soil. There's something that speaks to the quality of the tissue when you do it that way. That's the way the system is designed to go through the biological life. And then when we short circuit it by piling on fertilizer and using these different, insecticides and fungicides to try to get the crop through, we got to get the health back. See, and this matches up with the human element as far as dealing with systemic disease like cancer, trying to get the biome in the body to work with your own body to try to overcome that adversity. And see, this is basically what's happening to Jim.
Yeah. Yeah, he had mentioned also that he had went to an older gentleman that had an orchard yet, but wasn't able to keep up with it quite like he should. Him and his son-in-law went and helped this guy harvest his peaches for him. And they said they threw their shirts away when they got done picking because their yellow shirt was about half red with spider mites. This guy had so many spider mites. Now, Jim said he'd always kept his under control, and he kept telling me about these spider mites. And I said, I want to see one. I didn't know what he was talking about. So when I was in his orchard one day, he goes over to the tree and he's searching and searching. And he says, well, there's one. But it's dead. And he found a couple more that were dead. And then we went to a different part of the orchard, and then he found some live ones. And he realized that he had sprayed the day before where we were looking. And he come to the conclusion that the growers smoked those spider mites. And he has finally he said it took him a little while to get the courage and the backbone, but he put a spray of growers on and eliminated spider mites with no miticide. So that stuff at that time, he was talking almost $500 a gallon for miticide, and he does not use any anymore.
Yeah. See, the establishment is saying you can't do that. And these botany biologists that are working with this rhizophagia or feeding the crop through the biological is saying that once you build the immune system of that plant, your ability to deal with that adversity is significantly better. And again, this is what we've tried to tell guys. Hey, we're not going to eliminate all this stuff, but if we can cut this down and cut that input cost down quite significantly, you're going to have a lot more profitability, but you've got a healthier tissue too, which is going to be a better feed value.
And he has noted numerous times. He sent me some photographs also that I didn't add on here, but when he's pulling peaches out of the cooler, been in the cooler for 12, 15 days, pulls them out, sells them right out the front door as number ones, as though they were just picked that day.
Sure.
But, you look at no nitrogen being applied, and for that season, he didn't buy any miticide. He more than paid for the cost of this grower's product just by what he saved and not using those. But when you add in the marketing of peaches that he was throwing away and less of them hitting the ground when they fall off, he's a happy camper.
Yeah. See, and that all evolved from initially trying to help with the frost protection. See, and that's why I wanted to get this podcast in. So guys, if that's a problem that they're trying to deal with, we'd like them to work with us, but we think we can help their quality immensely. And see, I still think Jim's got some more steps to go up. Once he gets that calcium where it belongs in the soil, that'll help him immensely, I believe, because again, you're feeding that biology in the soil and you're getting that oxygen in there the way you should. That'll improve the overall health of the plant, through the symbiosis between the plant and the microbes in the soil.
Jim's pretty outspoken, so he tells you pretty much what he thinks on anything. But when he's addressed with the whole freeze protection thing, he said that's not even up for debate anymore. He said it has been proven, and not just once, but several times for him.
Yeah. And there's different, on the internet, there's been some different publications on that where they talk about the plant's ability to deal with the frost. And, they make certain kind of proteins that depress the freezing point, getting the micronutrients into the plant. That's, when you're seeing those heavier elements, they're depressing the freezing point even farther in the cell tissue so that you don't get those crystals, ice crystals formed in there. The plant itself can deal with it to a certain degree. And again, when we get that kind of depression over a long period of time and the plant's able to deal with it, that tissue's got to be very sensitive where those blooms are forming. That's reproductive tissue, and it's going to be very intricate. and keeping those crystals out of there is going to be a big deal. So if we're able to do that, that'll be a real step for the guy to try to overcome that.
Well, you've got the chemistry mind, and I've got the mechanical minds. But even I understand, like the calcium in the tires of the tractor, the mineral inclusion in that water keeps it from freezing, and that appears to be what we're doing with these blossoms. Also, is increasing the mineral content, which is what the whole growers program is about.
Yeah. See, well, the issue is, especially when you get in that time frame or that type of environment, the absorption out of the soil is going to be affected by the colder temperature to a certain degree. And so we've got to get those elements in there as quick as we possibly can, and see foliar feeding is the way to do it.
That's pretty much all I've got on his routine. He's got a lot of things to say about it, but not sure what else we would want to talk about on here.
Yeah, sure. No, I think we've pretty well covered it. Just to try to get guys' attention on the frost protection, just a way to introduce guys to us, and we've had good success with that. And it usually leads to what happened with Jim. They start to see this quality change, and that becomes a big issue. I mean, when you can take a portion of the crop that is not giving you the flavor or the kind of recognition by the customer, and you can change that, that's got to help with the return on investment very significantly.
Well, I think it does need to be added, though. There has been a few others that have tried to come in at the last minute and throw 1 gallon to the acre on the day before a freeze comes. It does not work. It's not a Hail Mary at the last minute. It's a program. It's a process of getting that mineral content up and keeping it up there. It's not something that'll happen just willy-nilly.
Yeah, no, that's right. It's that's definitely going to work. Like, everybody's looking for that home run, at the last minute, and see, you could get lucky. We've had guys spray vegetables and have that happen to them, but like you said, really, you've got to give the crop some time to work with it and get that in there, And if it's a point in the season where you just found out about us and you want to try something, the quicker the better. So, Marty, hey, I appreciate you helping me today. This gives guys something to work with. Now, we may give you an opportunity to come back and talk about something you really know something about as far as cattle are concerned, and putting on the high cal line on strip mine ground. So there's probably some boys out there that are still interested in that. We'll try to do it quick enough for this cattle price goes south.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, we're always dealing with Mother Nature, though. So to say that I know a lot about something, I'm learning to not say that.
Yeah, exactly. She's got her own agenda.
That's right.
Thanks, Marty. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
This podcast has been brought to you by Growers Mineral. Please visit growersmineral.com.